Hey, a useless woman like you is fired, as of today. Sign the divorce papers. My husband William's voice reverberated through the cold living room. In front of me were two large, overstuffed suitcases. He was serious. What were our 10 years together for? I asked. My voice trembling. William scoffed. 10 years? Just a waste of time. Starting tomorrow, I'm the president of the company's US operations. A stay-at-home wife like you, who can't even speak another language and has no skills, isn't fit for my brilliant future. Behind William stood Jessica, his subordinate and mistress, a triumphant smile on her face. Mrs. Henderson. Oh, sorry, former Mrs. Henderson. William is destined for the world stage. This cramped apartment is much more your speed. The two of them then embraced ostentatiously right in front of me. But in that moment, neither of them had the slightest idea. They didn't know that in a few minutes, I would make a single phone call to a very special person. And that this one call would send their seemingly perfect future crashing down into hell. Fine. If you're going to go that far, I'll agree to the divorce, I said, calmly signing the papers that had been prepared. Ha, glad you're so agreeable. It saves time. See you, loser. I'm off to enjoy a new life under the blue American sky, William sneered, leaving with Jessica, full of life and excitement. In the now silent room, I picked up my smartphone. The contact displayed on the talent-com screen was a name known by everyone in this country's economic sphere. It was the direct line to the chairwoman of the Vance conglomerate. The number of my time in our aunt, my only living relative. Hello? Aunt Eleanor, it's been a while. It's Sarah. Yes, about that matter. Yes. Please cancel that directive, effective immediately. At that moment, the American dream that William had envisioned began to crumble. My married life with William had been a continuous exercise in patience. As a director at Vance Global, a major multinational, he had started looking down on Braction. Me at some point. Whose money do you think puts food on the table? It must be nice for you, just sleeping at home all day. Even when he hurled such words at me, I endured, trying to fulfill my duties as a wife. But his arrogance wasn't the only thing he was hiding. He was having an affair with his young, flashy subordinate, Jessica, and in the end, he was casting me aside. Worse, he was completely convinced that he had seized the position of president of US operations through his own merit. He had no idea that it was a post my SID aunt had prepared for him, holding out hope for her niece's husband. From the living room window, I watched the two of them get into a taxi. William stuck his head out the window and gave our apartment building the middle finger. On his face, there was not a single shred of gratitude for the wife who had been by his side for a decade. Goodbye, William. I hope you enjoy your new life, I whispered coldly, continuing my call with my aunt. Yes, there's no need to hold back anymore. He needs to learn firsthand what, and who, has been keeping him afloat all this time. On the other end of the line, my aunt's stern voice resonated. Well said, Sarah. I have no need for such an ungrateful man in my company. I'll instruct HR immediately. By tomorrow morning, he'll get the shock of his life. Hanging up, I took a deep breath. I felt something in the pit of my stomach ignite, quietly, yet fiercely. The 10 years I had dedicated to him would be severed in this very moment. I could only imagine how violently the ground would crumble beneath his feet as he headed for JFK Airport tomorrow. A cold smile formed on my lips at the thought. In the silent living room William had abandoned, I sank deep into the sofa. Just a few hours ago, this was our home. But now, all that remained was an empty closet and the leftovers of the dinner I had prepared. We met in a club in college and married 10 years ago. Back then, William was an SLA. Ambitious, but sincere and hardworking young man. One day, I'll have you living in a huge house. I'm going to be a man who conquers the world, he'd said. I believed those words and decided to support him. My family runs the Vance conglomerate, one of America's leading corporate groups. My aunt, Eleanor Vance, is the current chairwoman and a hugely influential figure in the business world. But I hated showing off my family background. I wanted to make my own way, not rely on my family's power. So, I kept the details from William. My family runs a small business back home, and I have some relatives, I told him. I see, you've had it rough. I'll make you happy, he had said with a smile. I still believe that smile was genuine at the time. After we married, William joined Vance Global, a company run by my aunt. Of course, I had strongly requested that she evaluate him based on his own abilities. But my aunt, wishing for the happiness of her only niece, supported him from the shadows. The departments he was assigned to, the major projects he was involved in many, were paths secretly laid out by my aunt to foster his growth. William responded by producing results and steadily climbed the corporate ladder. However, as he gained status and fame, his heart visibly hardened. Sarah, meatloaf again? Can't you make something better? You're a stay-at-home wife, so you could at least keep the house perfectly clean. Talking to you does nothing for my work. Why don't you try to get some culture? When he came home, he would verbally abuse me, using me to vent his stress. His old kindness vanished, replaced by a bloated ego. He was convinced that all his success was due to his own talent. And he came to see me, the one who had supported him, as incompetent and worthless. It was then that the offer to become president of U.S. operations in New York City came his way. A top position on the glamorous stage of New York, it was the SAF. Highest honor for a man in his field, a mark of the elite. This is the greatest chance I've ever earned, he said, ecstatic. But I knew everything about what he was indulging in behind the scenes. The affair with his subordinate, Jessica. The two of them frequently met in secret, during work hours, and stayed at luxury hotels on the company's dime. I had all the evidence from reports provided by my acquaintances and investigators hired by my aunt. I'm taking Jessica to America. She's fluent in Spanish and is a more suitable partner for me, he declared without a hint of remorse when he asked for a divorce. I can't bring a woman like you, who just sits at home all day, to New York's social scene. I don't want to be embarrassed. If you understand, get out of the way. His eyes at that moment were filled with a coldness, as if he were looking at something filthy. For 10 years, so that he could focus on his work, I had handled all the housework perfectly, managed his health meticulously, and listened to all his complaints. He had completely forgotten that my existence was the foundation of his success. Staring at the night view spreading outside the window, I picked up a fashion photograph. It was a faded picture of the two of us on our wedding anniversary. William, you've made an irreversible mistake. The flight to America he believed he would be taking from JFK tomorrow. Its boarding pass was already on the verge of becoming just a piece of paper. Aunt Eleanor is kind to her family, but she is more unforgiving than anyone to traitors. When she learned that William had betrayed me and was lost in an affair, she was furious. Sarah, that man deserves no more mercy. Take everything from him. My aunt's words echoed in my ears. I began to prepare to leave the apartment filled with memories of William. I would only take my own clothes and personal belongings. The furniture, appliances, and designer goods he had bought with my money, I would leave them all behind. From now on, I would walk a new path, not as the heiress of the Tenemus Vance conglomerate, but as a woman freed from the curse of him. But before that, he had to see the hell called reality. The hell of realizing that what he believed was his own ability was, in fact, a complete illusion. Tomorrow morning, he would head to the airport, full of life, with Jessica, who never doubted his success, by his side. But what awaited him at the check-in counter was not an invitation to his beloved America, but a termination notice from his company. I took a sip of my cold coffee and stood up quietly. Well, let the show begin. I turned off the lights in the apartment and locked the door. My steps were lighter than they had ever been. The next morning, the departure lobby of JFK Airport was filled with the excitement and bustling energy of travelers. Amidst the crowd, a flamboyantly dressed man and woman stood out. It was William, perfectly attired in a high-end designer suit, and Jessica, draped in a fur coat. Several luxury brand suitcases, too, were lined up at their feet. William, look, Jessica said in a cloying voice, clinging to his arm. Everyone over there is looking at us with such envy. Of course they are. We're on our way to New York as the new president. We're in a different world from these common folk. This is a privilege reserved for the cis chosen, William said, lifting his chin in satisfaction as he scanned his tappened surroundings. The humility he had when he was with me was gone, replaced only by The glint of an inflated ego. Hey, William, I wonder what that plain wife of yours is doing right now. Probably crying alone in her cramped apartment, eating yesterday's leftovers, Jessica jeered. William snorted in response. I've already forgotten about a woman like that. She was just a weight holding me back. From now on, I have the best partner by my side. You. A woman like her, who can't even speak another language and has no skills, is a perfect match for a dead-end life in this country. William took out the latest smartphone from his pocket and, with a deliberate air, called me. He wanted to rub his victory in my face one last time, to listen to my crying and bask in his superiority. I answered the call from the balcony of my new temporary residence, a luxury penthouse. What do you want? At my calm voice, William began to speak in a tone that said, I've been waiting for this. Well, still angry? Sarah, do you know where we are right now? In front of the first-class lounge at JFK. We're about to sip champagne and enjoy the best service above the clouds. A world you'll never know. I said nothing, just listened to his words in silence. In response to my silence, William grew even more arrogant, his words tumbling out. Hey, cat got your tongue? You're always like this. Can you imagine how boring and painful the 10 years I spent with a quiet, uncharming woman, like you were? You were nothing more than a housekeeper to me. A convenient one who worked for free and never complained. Why don't you say something? Oh, it's too late to apologize. Now. I'm starting my life as a true elite in America. You can go work a cash register at some supermarket and live your pathetic little life. That's what a pathetic woman with no skills like you deserves. See you, loser. Don't ever come into my life again. William spat out his words and hung up. I could hear Jessica's voice in the chorus background, cooing, William, you're so cool. I stared at my smartphone screen and whispered quietly. No, I won't be in your life again. Not even after you're kicked out of where you are now. William and Jessica strode confidently to the first-class check-in counter. William Henderson, Vance Global. Tickets to New York. It's for my new appointment as president, so I expect the VIP treatment, William said, slamming his luggage onto the counter. The female staff member, who assisted him, smiled politely, took his passport, and began typing on her terminal. But a few seconds later, the smile vanished from her face. Mr. Henderson, I'm terribly sorry, but what? Is there a problem? William asked impatiently. The staff member, looking troubled, replied. Your reservation, sir, was cancelled by your company as of 9 a.m. this morning. Also, the corporate card you presented appears to have been deactivated. The color drained from William's face. What? Cancelled? What are you talking about? I'm the president. The company would never do that. Isn't it a mistake? William's shout echoed across the quiet counter area. Other passengers turned to look. No, sir, there is no mistake. Please look at this. It's displayed here in red. Travel cancelled and all benefits suspended immediately by HR directive. Then, the staff member stared at the screen again, her surprise evident as she added. And your title, sir, has been updated from President-designate to terminated for cause, effective today. Terminated for cause? William stood there as if all strength had left him. Jessica, too, stared at William with a look of disbelief. William, what's going on? What about my life as a socialite in New York? Stop joking around. Do something. William's mind went blank. Until yesterday, he was an elite who would conquer the world. Now, in the span of a few minutes, on this grand stage of the Bursa Parasis airport, he had been reduced to an unemployed man. Who could have done this? Why? Had his brilliant future been suddenly cut off? At that moment, an image of me, silent on the phone just moments ago, flashed through his mind. Could it be her? No, that's impossible. Sarah is just a clueless woman from a small town. She doesn't have that kind of power. But the truth he did not yet know was far more cruel than he could ever imagine. Are you kidding me? This isn't a joke. Who's behind this prank? Williams. Enraged roar echoed through the JFK lobby. Surrounding travelers frowned and gave him a wide berth. The aura of a chosen elite had vanished, leaving only a wide berth. Pathetic man, face flushed red, stomping his feet in a tantrum. William, be quiet. This is so embarrassing. Jessica whispered, trying to hide her face as she tugged on his sleeve. For her, William was the ticket to a ticketation's glamorous life in New York. Now that the ticket had turned into a worthless piece of paper, her attitude had changed completely. Shut up, Jessica. You stay out of this. It's some kind of mistake. I'll call headquarters, William said, fumbling with his phone with trembling hands to call the VP of Human Resources at Vance Global. But no matter how many times he called, all he heard was a cold, automated voice saying the number was no longer in service. Just then, the face of the woman he had just been mocking on the phone flashed through his mind. It was her. That plain, useless Sarah must have told them something. He had no proof, but at that moment, William needed someone to blame. He furiously redialed my number. I answered the call while gracefully sipping tea in a hotel lounge. What is it? Now? I'm busy. At my calm tone, William exploded with a voice that could shatter glass. Hey, Sarah. What did you say to the company? My promotion was cancelled. They're saying I'm fired. This is impossible. This is your doing, isn't it? I let out a soft sigh and remained silent. William's words escalated further. Don't just stand there in silence, say something. You witch. A stay-at-home wife like you, who knows nothing about how the world works, had to go and ruin my life. Were you that bitter about me going to America? Were you that jealous? That I was going with a young, beautiful woman like Jessica? Hey, are you listening? Do you have any idea what you've done? I'm the ace who supported this company. I'm on a different level from an incompetent woman like you who does nothing but fold laundry at home. You, with the intelligence of a high school dropout, trying to tarnish my career? You're 100 years too early. In reality, I graduated from a prestigious Ivy League university. But to justify himself, William spewed a litany of lies to belittle me. Jessica, standing next to him, even chimed in, her voice audible over the phone. That's right. Sarah, you're the worst. You were jealous of William's talent, so you made some harassing call to the company, didn't you? I get that, a plain, old, and talentless woman like you would want to cling to William. But did you really think he would love you for pulling such a cheap stunt? He'll just look at you like you're garbage. You parasite. I listened to their tirade in silence. It was more pathetic than infuriating. For 10 years, I had supported him, enduring his arrogance with a love they took for granted, treating me as a mere tool. At that moment, the last fragment of affection I held for him completely shattered. Is that all you have to say? I asked coldly. William's voice cracked. What? What's with that attitude? Call the company right now and tell them your last call was a lie. Apologize. If you do, I might even be generous and give you a few $100 a month in alimony. A useless woman like you can't survive on your own. You should be grateful. I placed my cup back on its saucer and slowly stood up. The view of the city from the lounge's large window was vast enough to swallow William's pathetic screams. William, let me correct one misunderstanding. I never made a harassing call to the company. I just told them the truth. The truth about you using the tainted company's expense account to go on lavish trips with Jessica. The truth that more than half of what you called your achievements were stolen from your subordinates. And the truth about how horribly you've treated me. What? How could you have proof of that? Oh, I do. The receipts from when you and Jessica used my credit card at luxury boutiques, photos of the two of you in hotel suites, I have it all. I could hear William's breath catch over the phone. Who did you send it to? The VP of HR? The COO? No. Much higher. I paused for a beat before delivering the final blow. To the chairwoman of the Vance conglomerate. My aunt, Eleanor. The chairwoman. Eleanor Vance? A connection finally sparked in William's mind. The company he worked for, Vance Global, was a subsidiary of the Vance conglomerate. And the chairwoman, a figure so high up he had never met her, was my relative, a fact he had never known until this very moment. Lies. That's a lie. You said your family ran some tiny shop back home. They do run a small shop. But my mother's sister, my aunt, is Eleanor Vance, the woman who built the Vance conglomerate from the ground up. She was always worried about my marriage, watching to see if you were a man worthy of her niece. William's hand holding the phone began to shake violently. Jessica, next to him, went pale at the mention of the name. Eleanor Vance. The one they call the Iron Lady? That's what she said, I continued. A man who cannot cherish Sarah is not qualified to lead my company. Your appointment as president was her giving you a chance. But you mistook it for your own achievement and threw me away. You reap what you sow, William. With that, I hung up before he could say another word. In the airport lobby, William collapsed to his knees. His smartphone slipped from his hand and clattered onto the floor with a hollow sound. Jessica looked down at William, kneeling on the cold airport floor, as if he were something disgusting. Wait, William, the chairwoman's niece? What does that mean? Why did you keep something so important from me? I bet on your future. I broke up with my boyfriend to be with you. Jessica's tirade pierced William's ears as he was cornered. William, with a trembling hand, grabbed his smartphone again and began sending me a torrent of messages. The earlier bravado was gone, replaced by a chaotic mix of threats and pleas. Sarah, this has to be a joke. Call the chairwoman right now and get her to undo everything. You'll be in trouble too if I end up on the streets. For the sake of our 10 years together. I was wrong. I'm sorry. But if I get fired over this, I won't let you off easy. A string of violent words filled the screen. I have proof that you framed me. I'll sue you in civil and criminal court for wrongful termination. You've ruined my life. You owe me $1 million in damages. If not, your family's little business won't be safe either. I scrolled through the messages in silence. Had the man I once loved really become this wretched and pathetic? The reality cut into my heart like a sharp knife. Even in seeking revenge, the memories of 10 years don't just disappear. I felt so sorry for the version of myself who had believed in him and devoted herself to him, and I felt tears welling up. What were my 10 years for? In the corner of the hotel lounge, I trembled, stifling a sob. William's words were pushing my mind into a deep, dark abyss. You're useless. You can't do anything without me. You're just a parasite. The curses he had hurled at me daily, for the past 10 years now, echoed in my head like an auditory hallucination, chipping away at my sanity. Did I really do something wrong? Did I destroy his life? A moment of doubt began to take hold of my mind. After years of living under the backer thumb of a tyrant like William, my brain was deeply wired to believe that his attacks were my fault. Just then, my smartphone screen changed, showing an incoming call from my aunt. Eleanor. Hello? Sarah. He's contacting you now, isn't he? Whatever he says, do not listen. He's drowning and just trying to pull you down with him. You did nothing wrong. You endured so well for 10 years. My aunt's powerful voice cleared some of the fog that had clouded my vision. But Aunt Eleanor, he said he's going to sue me, that he'll cause trouble for my parents' business. Let him talk. He clearly doesn't understand the ground he's standing on. Our corporate legal team is on their way to JFK right now. The numerous instances of his fraud using company funds, and his abuse towards you. It's time to settle all of it in a public forum. Just as my aunt said, a strange tension filled the airport lobby. As William, in a panic, tried to cling to Jessica, 3 men in black suits stood before him. William Henderson? We are from the Vance Conglomerate's legal department and Vance Global's internal audit office. William looked up, his eyes filled with fear. Who are you? I'm busy, right? Now. I'm preparing to go to America. No, I have business with the company. That won't be necessary. You are under suspicion of embezzlement for the personal use of a company credit card, as well as the unauthorized removal of confidential information and breach of trust. An internal investigation is underway, and a formal complaint has been filed with the police. The legal team member's voice was cold and unforgiving. That's impossible. It's a mistake. I'm the president. This project can't run without me. The presidential appointment was officially rescinded at this morning's board meeting. Mr. Henderson, you are no longer an employee of this company. In fact, you are very likely to be the defendant in the upcoming trial. A sound like a soul leaving a body escaped William's lips. Jessica, who had been standing next to him, quickly distanced herself. I have nothing to do with this. He did it all on his own. I was just his subordinate, forced to follow his orders. Jessica, what are you talking about? We bought all those designer things together. Shut up. I'm the victim here. I don't even want to look at the face of a criminal. You're disgusting. Jessica snatched her bag, shoved William, and ran off. Left alone, William stood stunned on the cold airport floor. The false pride he had built up came crashing down. He had been the one driving his wife into a Sevens corner, but now he was the one trapped in a maze with no exit. Wait. Before you take me away, listen to this. This woman has a terrible secret you all don't know about. Amid the airport chaos, William screamed with enough force to shove the legal team away. His expression was that of a beast that had lost all reason. A group of students on a school trip fearfully avoided him. Mr. Henderson, making a bigger scene will not help you, the legal representative said calmly, but William wouldn't stop. He snatched his dropped smartphone from the ground, called me again, and put it on speaker. Hey, Sarah. Should I expose what you've been doing right here? You act like the heiress of the Vance conglomerate, but you're running a massive scam behind the dance scenes, aren't you? I saw it. I saw you secretly manipulating mysterious wire transfer records on your computer late at night. On the other end of the line, I quietly closed my eyes. Ah, he's talking about that. The thing William thought was proof of fraud was a comical misunderstanding born from his continuous underestimation of my abilities. Your silence means I'm right, doesn't it? This woman has been embezzling millions of dollars from her own aunt's company. I copied the data and saved it on a separate server. If you fire me, I'll release this to the public and ruin the Vance conglomerate. William announced, looking triumphantly at the legal team. What? Surprised? This woman is a demon wearing the mask of a saint. Trusting her word and casting me aside would be a huge loss for the company. Now, reverse my termination and get me on a flight to America, right now. Jessica, who had crept back nearby, joined in. That's right. William told me. Sarah, you were stealing money from the company to help your family back home, weren't you? Pretending to be all plain and quiet, but you're no better than a thief. You really have no class. A natural-born criminal. You're no heiress, just a pathetic liar. I took a deep breath and finally spoke. My voice was crystal clear, without a trace of hesitation. William, are you referring to the payment data for Project M? What? How do you know that name? Yes. The money from that top-secret Project M. You were transferring it to your personal account. I let out a small sigh. William, you really never saw what your own wife was doing, did you? Project M is the patent management project for next generation energy, a venture the Vance conglomerate has staked its future on. And the chief executive of that project, M. I paused for a moment before revealing the shocking truth. Is me. The air in the airport froze. The men from the legal team exchanged looks of astonishment. What? A strangled sound escaped William's lips. My aunt entrusted me with the future of the conglomerate. While supporting our home as a housewife, I was also running this project remotely. In the time you mocked me for just sleeping at home, I was contacting researchers and corporations around the world, finalizing contracts. Lies. That's impossible. You're just a useless woman with no skills. You can't even speak another language. You have no professional experience. I was the one supporting you. No. I earned my PhD in business administration while I was still in college. English, French, Chinese. I've mastered all the languages necessary for business. While you were passed out drunk at home, I was on my headset, participating in executive meetings with New York and London. William's face turned ashen. Then, the project proposal for that position I was selected for. Yes, I wrote it. I left it on your computer, hoping you would see it and perhaps change your attitude toward your work. But you submitted it to the Seckers company as your own achievement, and then used that accomplishment as leverage to demand a divorce. I delivered the final blow in a steely voice. Everything you proudly claimed as your talent was just my hand-me-down. The wire transfers you called proof of a scam were nothing more than the legitimate movement of operational funds for the project. Of course, my aunt and the bank were fully aware. You just saw Complex numbers you couldn't comprehend and spun a paranoid fantasy. Ah. William dropped the smartphone from his hand. The sound it made, hitting the floor, was like a bell tolling the complete end of his life. Jessica, standing next to him, was speechless from the shock, trembling and backing away. The plain housewife she had mocked and looked down upon was, in fact, a ruler so far above them they could never reach her in a lifetime. William Henderson. "That's enough," said one of the legal team members, grabbing William's arm firmly. "Your statements also constitute slander. Furthermore, you threatened to leak confidential project information. All of this will be settled in court." William, with no will to resist, was dragged away. His back, just moments ago that of an arrogant elite, was now nothing more than the miserable, pathetic shell of a man. "Wait. Sarah. Is there no mercy for our 10 years together? Are you saying the time we built together was all a lie?" William's desperate cry echoed emptily through the airport lobby. His frantic expression was a world away from the Russenbat arrogance he had displayed when he threw the divorce papers at me. I gripped the receiver, silent for a few seconds. The quiet of the hotel lounge stood in stark contrast to William's screams. What was in my heart was not anger or sadness, but a deep emptiness. "Mercy for 10 years? I finally said. William latched onto my words. "That's right. You must have been happy with me, too. We celebrated at a fancy restaurant when I got that promotion, didn't we? Your smile then was real, wasn't it? Please. It was a momentary lapse in judgment. Let's call off the divorce. I'll go to America with you. I'll break things off with Jessica right now. William, you really don't understand anything, do you?" My voice was as sharp and cold as ice. "Back then, when you believed you earned that promotion on your own merit, do you have any idea how much I had to clean up your messes behind the scenes to cover for your mistakes?" "What? Covered for my mistakes?" "Yes. The Shanghai project 3 years ago. The multi-million-dollar loss risk you missed due to faulty paperwork. I was the one who secretly corrected it and negotiated with the client. The logistics crisis 2 years ago, too. While you were out whining and dining under the guise of entertaining clients, I was pretending to be you, exchanging emails with the local team to resolve the situation." The color drained from William's face again. You even did that? If you're talking about mercy for our 10 years, I've already used it all up. I kept believing that you would one day be able to stand on your own 2 feet, so I worked as your shadow, desperately hiding your incompetence. But instead of being grateful, you ignored your own failings, called me a parasite, and betrayed me. Jessica, who had been watching the events unfold with bated breath, let out a trembling, desperate cry, as if to deny reality. "Lies. That's all got to be a lie you made up, Sarah. William is a capable man. A plain woman like you could never handle such important work. You're just a big liar, trying to take credit for William's success. Jessica, you're quite deluded yourself," I added with a sigh. "Those expensive bags and jewelry William gave you? They were all purchased with company funds or, to be more precise, with money he secretly withdrew from the conglomerate's discretionary fund, which I manage. In other words, you were living luxuriously on my money." Jessica dropped the designer bag she was holding as if it were a hot iron. My bag was bought with your money? That's not all, William Henderson. Your crimes aren't limited to embezzlement." I turned my attention back to the legal team. "Gentlemen, would you please take a closer look at the contents of the briefcase he was trying to take with him?" At my instruction, a member of the legal team opened William's briefcase. Inside was a thick stack of files and several USB drives. "This is top-secret data related to Vance Global's next-generation energy development." The team member's voice dropped an octave. "Mr. Henderson, what were you planning to do with this? There are far too many copies for it to just be for the U.S. office. Were you, by any chance, planning to sell this to a rival company?" "What? Of course not. I was just making backups." William's excuse fell on deaf ears. The truth was, shortly after his U.S. appointment was confirmed, William had been secretly contacted by a foreign competitor. They had promised to triple his salary if he defected with confidential information. Lured by these sweet words, he had stolen data that was the very heart of the company. But the data he had stolen was also a trap I had set. William, the data on those USB drives looks authentic at first glance, but it's actually dummy data with useless, fabricated formulas embedded in it. The moment you attempted to leak it to an external party, a notification was set to be sent to the conglomerate's security team. William could no longer even speak. He had thought he was some all-knowing god, but in reality, he was just a clown dancing in the palm of my hand. William Henderson, breach of trust, embezzlement, and attempted leaking of confidential information. These are all subject to clear criminal penalties. The police are on their way here now. Please come with us. From behind the legal team, several uniformed police officers approached at a brisk pace. No. Let me go. I'm going to America. I'm going to be the president. William thrashed about without any regard for his appearance, but he was instantly subdued by the strong officers. His face was pressed against the airport floor, as he was handcuffed. In that instant, his supposedly brilliant future was plunged into complete darkness. William, wait. Don't leave me. Jessica cried, trying to run after him, but she, too, was asked to accompany the police for questioning on suspicion of being an innocent accomplice. Just before hanging up, I delivered one last line to William, who was now trembling and whispering, Sarah, help me. Thank you for choosing me 10 years ago. Because of you, I found the courage to cut out the person who didn't value me. Goodbye. Don't ever appear before me again. The line went dead. In my hand, I held a copy of the divorce papers and a ticket to freedom. But the story doesn't end here. After William was taken away by the police, a momentous truth that would shake the entire Vance conglomerate was about to be revealed by my aunt, Eleanor. Shoved into the hard back seat of the police car, William stared blankly at the lies. Receding airport scenery. The coldness of the handcuffs, biting into his wrists, was a merciless reminder that this was reality. This can't be happening. My life can't end here. He shook his head repeatedly, trying to reject the truth. Just then, as the car passed through a gate, it crossed paths with a B.A. top-of-the-line black limousine. In the back seat sat my aunt, Eleanor Vance, her expression resolute as she looked straight ahead. And the moment William saw the person sitting next to her, his eyes widened, and a dry scream escaped his throat. Him. Why is he with the chairwoman? It was Daniel, the young employee William had treated like an incompetent gopher. Every day. Daniel, who always bowed his head and said, I'm sorry, sir, even when William threw documents at him or forced him to work late. But now? Daniel was dressed in an expensive, perfectly tailored suit, and behind his glasses, his eyes shone with sharp intelligence. When his eyes met William's in the Capraturis police car, a faint, cruel smile played on his lips. It was the smile of a victor looking at the vanquished, a cold smile devoid of even pity. The truth was, Daniel was an undercover investigator for the Vance conglomerate, and my direct subordinate. My aunt, to test William, had intentionally placed a brilliant person like him as a novice under William's command. The one who had been collecting evidence of William's arrogance and the damage he was causing the company, day after day, from the closest possible position, was Daniel. Surprised, Mr. Henderson? A voice that seemed to come from nowhere echoed in William's mind. It was Daniel who had perfectly handled all the practical work, and corrected the errors behind the scenes for the projects William had boasted were his own. As the police car left the airport and headed for the station, William's despair turned to rage. I was set up. That woman, and the chairwoman. I was set up from the start. He thrashed around in the car, spewing beast-like words as the car hissed. Officers restrained him. They're monsters, both of them. That witch Sarah, smiling at my side for 10 years while spying on me. She's a terrifying woman. To prepare for 10 years, just to send her own husband to hell. Who could love such a cold-blooded woman? Who could make her happy? You guys better watch out. That woman is a poison that devours men. Meanwhile, I was in a hotel suite, gazing out the window. An email from Daniel detailed William's arrest. I didn't reply, just quietly placed my smartphone on the table. More than a sense of accomplishment from my revenge, I felt an indescribable emptiness at witnessing a person's ugly collapse. But the story was now at a major turning point. William's arrest was merely the settlement of an individual's crimes. The truly important part was the fate of the dummy data he had tried to steal. Sarah, are you ready? Eleanor's voice came from behind me. She entered the room and gently placed a hand on my shoulder. Yes, Aunt Eleanor. I'm ready whenever you are. This is where the real work begins. It's time to show your power to the world. The time for killing yourself living in the shadow of that small man is over. From now on, you will be the face of the Vance conglomerate, and of the American economy. From that day on, my position was completely reversed. The title of William Henderson's wife vanished, and my life as Sarah Vance, the next CEO of the Lotte Vance conglomerate, began. The next morning's business news was dominated by the story. Vance, Global. Director William Henderson arrested for embezzlement and breach of trust. Suspicions of major corporate espionage emerge. Vance conglomerate names. Chairwoman's niece, Sarah Vance, as successor. Her achievements from a young age. Revealed. The photo of me on TV was that of a confident leader, with no trace of the plain housewife of the past. Meanwhile, William saw the news in his holding cell and was rendered speechless. What? Sarah is the CEO? Her? The woman I looked down on, is in a place I could never reach in a lifetime? He pointed a trembling finger at the TV screen, but no one could hear him. To make matters worse, the man in the neighboring cell delivered another blow. Hey, Henderson. You really messed up. It was the man William believed was his contact at the foreign competitor. But the man's true identity was an undercover agent investigating corporate espionage. All the data you gave us was fake. Thanks to you, our investigation was a bust. You were not only fooled by your wife, but you were also used by us, the police. What a pathetic man. William collapsed in a heap. He had believed he was so clever, manipulating everyone around him, but in reality, he had been used and discarded by everyone he encountered. But William's despair was not over. Jessica, who was supposed to start a new life with him in America, also delivered a decisive betrayal. In the heavy atmosphere of the interrogation room, she screamed hysterically. Please believe me. I didn't know anything. It was all that man, William Henderson. He tricked me, telling me he would make me the happiest woman in the world, and just used me. Her mascara had run, making her look like a panda, as she clung to the detective. The woman who, just days before, had clung to William's arm and called me a parasite was gone. That man is the absolute worst. He badmouthed his wife to me every day, boasting about how brilliant he was. Even the expense account fraud, he said it was his privilege and dragged me along. I wanted to refuse, but he said a superior's order was absolute. The detective looked at her with a calm expression and presented a document. However, Miss Clark, your bank account shows regular, large transfers from the defendant, listed as an allowance. Furthermore, in an email to your friend, you wrote, "This current guy is a total cash cow. I'm just going to flatter him for a while, and then make him buy me all the designer things in New York." Jessica's face froze instantly. That was just a joke. The amount is a bit large for a joke. You won't be able to escape being charged as an accomplice. Meanwhile, in another interrogation room, William was also being tormented by extreme anxiety. What he feared most wasn't just going to prison, but the fact that all his personal assets had been frozen. Counselor, please, you have to do something. William desperately grabbed the dossier sleeve of the lawyer who appeared in the meeting room. I should still have a hidden offshore account. I can use that to pay bail, to pay a settlement. If I offer that woman Sarah enough money, she'll drop the charges. But the lawyer shook his head, looking troubled. Mr. Henderson, please calm down. That hidden account has already been frozen by the Vance conglomerate's bras legal department as evidence of illegal gains. After deducting the company funds you misappropriated and your unpaid taxes, your current balance is in the appropriated negative. A massive damages claim is also pending, and proceedings have begun to seize your parents' real estate as collateral. Negative? My parents' house too? Lies. That's impossible. William's scream echoed emptily through the glass. He was finally beginning to understand the Rachel the Beaches scale of the power he had challenged. Around that time, I had just finished reading a letter in a quiet botanical garden in the city. It was from William's mother, my former mother-in-law. She had apparently learned from the news that William had been unaware of my family's true identity and had been mistreating me. Sarah, I am so truly sorry. I never dreamed my son was capable of something so terrible. He had told us that your family was drowning in debt and that he was supporting all of you. It is our fault for raising him to be such an arrogant person. I will not ask you to forgive him. But for the sake of us, his aging parents, I beg you, please spare his life. I quietly folded the letter and closed my eyes. His mother was also partly responsible for fueling William's arrogance. Every time he was promoted, she would praise him effusively. You're our pride and joy. You're too good for Sarah, never once acknowledging my struggles. She too was one of the people who believed in the illusion of William and looked down on me. I picked up a pen and wrote a reply. Mrs. Henderson, I have no intention of forcing anything upon him. The law will simply deliver a just verdict for the prostate crimes he committed. What he has lost is the result of his own choices. Now that he is out of my hands, there is nothing I can do. Goodbye. Please do not contact to me again. It will only bring more hardship to your future. After mailing the reply, I received a call from Daniel. Sarah, William is having a panic attack at the detention center and is threatening self-harm. He's screaming that he wants to see you, that he has something he needs to apologize for. For what, now? Ignore him. Understood. Also, regarding Jessica, she's trying to get a lighter sentence by falsely claiming she's pregnant with William's child. Falsely? Yes. A medical exam confirmed she is not pregnant. In fact, it's been discovered she had another serious boyfriend the whole time. William was being used until the very end. I clenched my fists. William's desperation must have reached its peak. The talent he believed in, the status he thought he had earned, and even the mistress he thought he loved. All of it was slipping through his fingers like sand. Daniel, proceed with the preparations. At his first court appearance tomorrow, we will deliver the final blow. The one truth he never wanted to know. The courtroom was filled with a unique, heavy silence and a cold atmosphere. The gallery held a few figures from the Vance conglomerate and members of the press, indicating the high level of public interest. I was seated next to my lawyer, participating as a victim. The defendant will now enter. Prompted by a bailiff, William appeared from behind a door. The arrogant, confident man from a few days ago was gone. His hair was disheveled, his complexion sallow. His expensive suit had been confiscated, and he was hunched over in a shabby sweatsuit. Defendant William Henderson. This court will now proceed with the trial for breach of trust, corporate embezzlement, and attempted leaking of confidential information. As the prosecutor read the indictment, William's knees occasionally trembled, and he would look at me with pleading eyes. But I never once met his gaze. I just stared straight ahead. To me now, he was not even an object of love or hate. He was merely a toxic substance to be eliminated from my life. As the evidence was presented, the prosecution called an elderly man as a defense character witness. The moment the man stood at the witness stand, William's body jolted. That man is. It was Mr. Peterson, once a legendary salesman at Vance Global, who had risen to the executive ranks before suddenly retiring 10 years ago. He was the mentor who had taken an interest in William when he was a junior employee, guiding him with a firm but dedicated hand. Witness, please state your name. James Peterson. I was an executive vice president at Vance Global until 10 years ago, Mr. Peterson answered in a calm but weighty voice. He then slowly turned to fix his sharp gaze on the defendant. William. Seeing you like this, I can't help but feel it's not sadness, but karma. Mr. Peterson. You're retired. What are you doing meddling in my affairs now? William screamed, unable to contain himself. Shut up, you old fool. You're the loser who ran away 10 years ago because you couldn't cover up your own daughter's scandal. I worked my ass off to fill the hole you left. I deserve gratitude, not judgment from you. A murmur spread through the courtroom. The judge called for order, but William's outburst continued. I don't know how much Sarah paid you, but if you're going to give false testimony, you'll regret it. I can expose your daughter's scandal. Right here, right now. Mr. Peterson received William's insults without flinching and began to speak calmly. Your Honor, I am not here today at Miss Vance's request. I am here because I must reveal, in this court, the truth of an incident that caused me to leave the company 10 years ago. Mr. Peterson took out an old envelope. William, you just mentioned my daughter's scandal. At the time, my daughter worked in Vance Global's public relations department. An anonymous tip claimed she had leaked information to a FIRO rival company. She took responsibility and resigned, and has been suffering from mental health issues ever since. The color rapidly drained from William's face. She did that on her own. No. What the internal investigation at the time could not uncover has now been fully revealed by the Vance conglomerate's new investigation. Mr. Peterson continued, presenting evidence. 10 years ago, the person who illegally accessed my daughter's computer and fabricated the spy email was you, William. At the time, you were competing for a promotion. To eliminate your rival and to weaken my authority as a senior executive, you used my daughter and set a trap for her. The courtroom fell silent. William's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Do you remember what you did to my daughter 10 years ago? She trusted you. She was seriously considering marrying you. That's why she gave you her login password. You used that trust to shatter her life and use her as a stepping stone for your own career. It was a shocking revelation. Before he married me, William had destroyed another woman's life. And he had smugly taken the position that opened up. Because of that scandal, the first step of his career was built not on hard work, but on a vicious crime. Lies. Lies. There's no proof of that. Oh, there is. The recovered records of your actions from the old computer you used back then. And a confession under duress from the parents of the former employee you used as an accomplice. It seems you underestimated the W-Tau investigative capabilities of the Vance conglomerate. Mr. Peterson's words pierced William's heart like a sharp blade. William collapsed into his chair. The darkest, filthiest secret he had hidden for 10 years was now exposed for all to see. I watched this scene unfold in silence. I felt I finally understood why William had so insistently called me useless. He knew, better than anyone, that he was a frome person who could only succeed through cowardly means. That's why he was so terrified of my genuine effort and talent. He could only maintain his own sense of worth by belittling me. Everything you built, William Henderson, was an illusion, Mr. Peterson said. Finally. He glanced once in my direction, gave a deep, respectful nod, and left the witness stand. William seemed to have lost even the energy to scream. But the story was not over. With this past crime exposed, the sentencing for his current crimes would become far heavier than anyone could have predicted. While awaiting his sentence, William stared at a document with trembling hands. On the cold floor of his cell. It was a notification regarding the assets he had hidden in an offshore private bank, his last lifeline. Balance. 0. This can't be happening. William's scream bounced off the walls of the small cell. That account should have held over $3 million. The Brabula section. Fruits of 10 years of cleverly inflating company expenses and pocketing kickbacks from clients. He had planned to flee the country with that money, after serving his time. Counselor, this has to be a mistake. It's a system error, right? William slammed his fists against the partition glass, confronting the lawyer who rushed into the visiting room. But the lawyer's face was ashen. Mr. Henderson, please calm down. It's not a mistake. Do you remember the accountant, Mr. Smith, who managed your assets? Of course. He was a senior from my university, the man I trusted most. He would never betray me. He owes me. Well, Mr. Smith. The lawyer hesitantly produced a photograph. He turned himself into the police yesterday, and confessed to all of your fraudulent activities. And the slush fund he was managing for you has been fully transferred to a special account under the Vance conglomerate's control for victim restitution. What? William's mind was filled with white noise. Smith turned himself in? He sold me out? No. It seems he was by your side from the very beginning with the intention of selling you out. At the lawyer's words, William's thought process completely shut down. Mr. Smith was a specialist in exposing corporate fraud, brought in from the outside by the Vance conglomerate's audit department. In other words, he was a professional undercover investigator. The best friend William had believed to be his only ally, the one to whom he had confided all his secrets for 10 years, was actually an operative sent by Aunt Eleanor. While William was indulging in luxury and smugly calculating his Illicit gains. Smith was coldly recording evidence of every single crime. Sarah. It was that woman again. William gritted his teeth, his face contorting into a demonic mask. How far will she go to make a fool of me? She's playing with my life like it's a game. Just then, from the adjacent visiting booth, a familiar shrill voice could be heard. It was Jessica. She too was having a breakdown with her lawyer. Lies. William's slush fund is gone? That's a lie. He promised to pay me alimony with that money. That man. He brings me all the way to America and then turns me into a penniless criminal? I want my time back for being stuck with such a loser. William Henderson is the worst piece of trash. I never want to see his face again. Hearing Jessica's curses through the wall, William sank even deeper into despair. The woman he thought he loved had turned on him the moment the money was gone, cursing his name. Jessica. You too? You were only after my money? Meanwhile, I was quietly looking out a window in the courthouse hallway. Daniel came and reported that all of William's assets had been recovered. Sarah, he has nothing left now. Family, job, lover, reputation, and all the wealth he illegally obtained, it's all gone. I see, I answered curtly. What I felt wasn't the joy of victory, but a cold realization of how fragile and foolish a person can be. How many lies had William told, how many people had he hurt, just to believe he was special? Sarah, I have a message from William, Daniel said, looking hesitant. He's asking to see you one last time, in person. He says he wants to tell you his true feelings for you. What should we do? There's no need to see him, I refused instantly. His true feelings are just excuses to protect himself. I don't want to waste another second on his words. But Daniel continued. He also said, don't you want to know the truth about how your mother died? He said it with a strange smile. I felt my heart pound. My mother, Eleanor's sister, died in a car accident when I was 15. My father passed away a few years later, and I was taken in by my Krekus aunt. I had always thought it was just an unfortunate accident. He knows something about my mother? He claims that right after he joined Vance Global, he found an unreleased investigation report on the accident in an old archive room. The ground felt like it was crumbling beneath me. The real reason William had chosen a useless woman like me 10 years ago, and tried so hard to control me, perhaps it wasn't just to use my aunt's power. Maybe he was holding on to something much deeper, much darker. Sarah, you don't have to go. This is his last-ditch effort to manipulate you. Pushing aside Daniel's concern, I lifted my head. No. I'll go. If he's involved in my mother's death, then the real hell is just beginning. At the detention center's visiting room, on the other side of the acrylic partition, William sat, terribly gaunt, his eyes hollow. You finally came, I knew you would. His voice was no longer the sharp tone of before, but a creepy, blood-crawling whisper. I sat down opposite him without a word. My smartphone was connected to my aunt's. Through Daniel. I said nothing, just stared into William's eyes. Unable to bear the silence, William started talking with a cynical smile. Are you that scared of knowing the truth? The real face of your perfect aunt, whom you adore so much. Eleanor Vance is no saint. She's a cold-blooded monster who will even use her own family as stepping stones for her goals. You really know nothing, do you? How much I pitied you for 10 years. You're just livestock, being raised by Eleanor. That accident that killed your mother. The police closed the case as break failure, but that's not the truth. William leaned forward, tapping the acrylic with his fingertips. Your mother was fiercely opposing Eleanor over the Vance conglomerate's business strategy at the time. Eleanor, seeing her sister as an obstacle, bribed a mechanic to tamper with the car. In other words, the one who killed your mother was none other than your aunt, Eleanor. I clenched my trembling fists on my lap. William's words lit a fire to the fear I had sealed deep within my heart. Lies. My aunt would never do something like that. I have proof. The top-secret investigation report I found in the basement archives of Vance Global. It contains the record of payment from my aunt's personal account to the mechanic who did the deed. Eleanor didn't take you in. She was just pretending to atone for her sins while keeping you, the sole heir, under surveillance. I fell silent again. My mind went blank, my breathing shallow. If what William said was true, what had my life been? Was my aunt's love and support all a lie? Seeing my confusion, William laughed, convinced of his victory. What's wrong? Despair? Sarah, the only one who can save you from this hell is me. Drop the charges against me right now. If you do, I'll tell you where the original report is. You and I will blackmail Eleanor and take everything from the Vance conglomerate. William's proposal was like a devil's temptation. But just then, a resolute, female voice echoed from the room's speaker. That's enough, William Henderson. Behind William, the door opened. It was Eleanor Vance herself. Accompanied by her lawyer and a police chief, she strode in and stood behind William. What? Why is Eleanor here? William's face contorted in fear. Sarah, don't be swayed, my aunt said, her gaze gentle yet firm through the farkle. Acrylic. The report William is talking about. It's a forgery he created. A forgery? Don't be ridiculous. I saw it. No. What you found in the basement archives was a part of the real report I commissioned to find the truth of the accident. You altered it to suit your own narrative, and tried to use it to threaten me. My aunt presented an old, yellowed document. The real culprit who killed your mother wasn't a tampered break or my order. It was the driver of a large truck who made an illegal pass and forced your mother's car off a cliff. Everyone knows that. The person who bribed that driver was. No, William. The name of that truck driver was David Henderson. Your father. What? A sound like a soul leaving a body escaped William's lips. At the time, your father was deep in debt and was driving drunk. He caused the accident that involved your mother's car. I learned the truth in the midst of my grief over losing my sister, but by then, your mother had already written in her will. If an accident happens, do not blame anyone. The children left behind are not at fault. Tears welled in my aunt's eyes. I respected my sister's wishes. If your father had been arrested, the lives of you and your mother, you a student at the time, would have been over. So, I paid a large settlement and had the accident processed as an unavoidable event due to mechanical failure. And I brought you, the son of the perpetrator, and Sarah, the daughter of the victim, together. I hoped that one day, the two of you could join hands and overcome this tragedy. The visiting room was enveloped in a vacuum-like silence. William's face had gone beyond pale to a blank white. My father killed Sarah's mother? Then, Eleanor was protecting me all this time? Yes. And yet, you abused Sarah and betrayed me. To bite the hand that feeds you. That is exactly what you have done. Without bothering to wipe away my overflowing tears, I looked at William, and then at my aunt. The world I had believed in had been shattered once, only to be reconstructed with a deeper form of love. What William thought was his weapon. There was actually my aunt's mercy, to hide his own family's sin. Ah! William screamed, clutching his head as if he'd gone mad. The realization that his entire existence was built upon the grace he had looked down on pushed his psyche to its limit. I stood up and quietly left the visiting room. Behind me, William's wails continued to echo, but I never once looked back. A few days after the meeting at the detention center, I visited my mother's grave on a small hill with my aunt, Eleanor. A summer breeze rustled the crate hydrangeas planted nearby. Mom, it's finally all over, I said, placing flowers at the headstone and quietly putting my hands together. For a while, I just watched the incense smoke rise. The verbal abuse William had hurled at me for 10 years. A useless woman. Like you, I'm the one supporting you. A parasite with the intelligence of a back high school dropout seemed to fade away in the silence. Sarah, take this, my aunt said, handing me an old envelope. Your mother entrusted this letter to me just before she passed away. She told me to give it to you when you were old enough and at a major crossroads in your life. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope and unfolded the letter inside. In my mother's gentle yet strong handwriting, it said, to my beloved Sarah, if you are tired of believing in someone and feel like you're losing yourself, please remember this. You are not living to be judged by others. Even if the world denies you, you are worthy just as you are. If the person by your side hurts you, do not hesitate to let go of their hand. True strength is not in enduring, but in the courage to step forward to love yourself. My mother's words seeped into my dry heart. Perhaps she had foreseen that one day, I would be trampled by someone like William. And she had left me the key to break free from that curse. I wiped my tears and looked up. Aunt Eleanor, I've decided. I will formally accept the position of the next CEO of the Vance conglomerate. Not as the loser William described, but as the free, strong woman my mother wanted me to be. I will lead this company. Well said, Sarah. That's my pride and joy, my aunt nodded in satisfaction, squeezing my hand tightly. The following week, I held a press conference at the Vance conglomerate headquarters. The plain housewife was gone. Dressed in a sharp, navy blue suit, I walked onto the stage with confident steps. As of today, I have been appointed as the Chief Executive Officer of the Vance conglomerate. I am Sarah Vance. Amid a storm of camera flashes, I calmly and powerfully outlined my vision for the future. The news reached William in his detention cell. On the TV was my image, so beautiful and radiant. William was finally forced to understand, down to his very bones, what a treasure he had foolishly thrown away. Lies. I can't believe it. There's no way that plain woman could become so beautiful, William whispered, clinging to the TV screen with a trembling voice. But that wasn't the only blow. A letter from the now divorced Jessica arrived. For him. It was a report of the cruel reality he least wanted to hear. To William Henderson, I've already told the police everything about you. I'm getting remarried to my new boyfriend. Unlike you, he's a real millionaire, kind, and capable. The idea of you becoming president in America is laughable. Now, I can't believe I wasted my time on a delusional man like you. I hope you spend the rest of your life rotting in that tiny cage, chewing on your own misery. Oh, and by the way, I sent flowers to congratulate Sarah on her new position. She's so much more wonderful than you. Arg. William tore the letter to shreds and slammed his head against the tackings to me wall, sobbing. His reputation, status, wealth, and the pride in his masculinity he held so dear, all of it had been smashed to pieces. I was at my desk in the newly appointed CEO's office, reading a report from Daniel. The verdict for William's trial was in an 8-year prison sentence, with no chance of parole. Considering the gravity of his crimes and the tateful maliciousness of his other offenses, it was a fitting result. The defendant reportedly collapsed in tears when the verdict was read. Daniel said quietly. I said nothing, just gazed at the Tokyo skyline outside my window. The revenge. He was over. But my real battle was just beginning. William, as he was about to leave for America, had told me, you belong in this cramped apartment, living a dead-end life. But now, he was the one deprived of town freedom behind iron bars, and I was the one about to take flight into the wide world. The story was now heading towards its most satisfying climax. On the day William was to be transferred to prison, he was given the right to make one last phone call to me. What was the final blow I delivered to him at the bottom of his despair? On the fateful morning of his transfer to prison, William sat in the visiting room of the detention center, surrounded by cold concrete walls. This was his last chance to contact the outside world. With a trembling hand, he picked up the receiver and dialed my number. Hello. The moment he heard my voice, William began to scream as if a dam had broken. Sarah. Sarah, please. Don't hang up. I was wrong. I was a fool. The truth is I love you. For 10 years, you were my only light. I said nothing, just listened to his sobs. I could hear his heavy breathing and sniffling over the receiver. The arrogant, elite corporate man was gone without a trace. Sarah, are you listening? Remember our 10 years together. Don't let the days we laughed together be for nothing. Now that you're the CEO, you can get me out. With a special pardon, right? Or even in prison, write to me. I need your support. As I remained silent, William's words gradually twisted into incoherent rage. Hey! Say something, you cold-hearted witch. You planned to frame me like this from the start, didn't you? You pushed your husband into hell just to climb to the top. Are you drinking wine and celebrating right now? A woman with no blood or tears like you as a CEO? Don't make me laugh. You're a thief who stole my life. I curse you. I'll curse you for the rest of my life. I let out a short, sharp breath. Then, in the calmest, most ice-cold voice I had ever used, I began to speak. William, what love are you talking about? You didn't love me. You loved my aunt's power, the perfect home I provided, and the pathetic sense of superiority you got from looking down on me. That was the true nature of your love. I settled deeper into my chair, gazing at the view he would never have. The American dream you envisioned? The truth is, the establishment of that New York office was a trap to lure you out. The money you stole from the company, the designer goods you lavished on Jessica. We let you do it all so that at the moment you reached your highest point, we could cast you down into the deepest abyss. The moment you were so sure of your own abilities and decided to discard me, that was the true end of your life. William was speechless, aghast. And that luxury penthouse you bought for Jessica? Its ownership was transferred to the Vance conglomerate from the very beginning. That apartment is now being used as a shelter for single mothers in need, as an apology for all the housework you forced upon me. Your tainted money is finally serving a useful purpose in the world. Lies. Lies. My home. My money. You have nothing left. You've been completely erased from my official records. And from my memory. All that remains is a long 8-year sentence and the cold stares of the people you hurt. William slammed his head against the acrylic partition, crying out like a beast. Sarah, forgive me. Please. I don't want to die. Don't let me rot in a place like this. Just then, the door to the visiting room opened, and Daniel entered with a facet. Prison guard. Defendant Henderson, it's time. The transport bus is waiting. Daniel no longer even saw William as a human being. He walked past him and gave me a gentle smile. Sarah. Your real life begins now. There's no need to waste any more words on the ghosts of the past. I nodded and delivered my final words to William. Goodbye, William Henderson. Oh, and I almost forgot. I was allowed to choose your prison number. It's 1028. A number that's low and easy to crumble, just like your pride. It suits you. Arg. Wait. Don't go. Sarah. Sarah. As William's screams echoed, I quietly placed the receiver back in its cradle. The heavy iron door closed, completely cutting off his voice. When I stepped into the hallway, a clear blue sky stretched out before me. It was a sky more beautiful and vast than any he had hoped to see in America. I gently took the hand that Daniel offered me. Let's go. To change the world for the better. From the small window of the transport bus, heading to the prison, William desperately tried to follow the outside world with his eyes. The city scenery receded, and the towering headquarters of the Vance conglomerate came into view. In the top floor, glass-walled executive lounge, he could see 2 figures. One was a beautiful woman in a sharp white suit, looking down at the city me, Sarah. And next to her stood Daniel, his hand gently on my shoulder. The two of us were smiling quietly, as if celebrating the dawn of a new era. William clenched his fists so hard they bled and pounded on the window. Sarah. Sarah. But his screams were drowned out by the thick, soundproof glass and the secondamani roar of the engine, never reaching anyone's ears. I just watched the receding shadow of the bus in silence. I didn't even feel hatred anymore. In the grand story of my life, William was nothing more than a cruel, but necessary teacher who taught me the importance of loving myself. Sarah, it's almost time. We should head to the inauguration party, Daniel's calm voice said. I slowly turned around. Yes. Let's go, Daniel. Thank you for supporting me through all this. Not at all. I just wanted to be by your side and watch your true brilliance return. Daniel's eyes held no calculation or falsehood, only deep trust and reverence. The venue was filled with the titans of American industry. Standing in the Sepano center was my aunt, Eleanor. The moment she saw me, she gently dabbed her eyes and beckoned me over with a radiant smile. Everyone, I would like to introduce the new CEO of the Vance conglomerate, Sarah Vance. My aunt's voice resonated through the hall, and a thunderous applause erupted. I stood before the microphone and slowly surveyed the room. Among them were executives from client companies who had once dismissed me as a useless housewife, but now, they all looked at me with awe and respect. For a long time, I lived by erasing myself to protect someone I cared about. The hall fell silent at my words. But I have come to realize that true strength is not about hiding in someone's shadow, but about becoming a light that illuminates those around you. From now on, the Vance conglomerate will not be merely a profit-seeking entity, but a force for creating a society where those who love, protect, and live with integrity are rewarded. When my speech ended, the room exploded with the most enthusiastic applause of the day. All the glory that William had once smugly believed he had won on his own was now, with a single word from me, imbued with a more righteous, more brilliant value, deeply etched into people's hearts. A few months later, I established the M Foundation, named after my mother, using all the illicit funds recovered from William and my personal inheritance. It became an organization to support the independence of women suffering from spousal abuse and domestic violence. Sarah, a letter came from a woman who found a new job thanks to the Suppet Foundation, Daniel said, handing it to me. I read it while gazing at the sunset outside my window. Meanwhile, on the cold floor of the prison, rocked by the dynamics of a shared cell, the last pieces of news reached William. The story of a child with Jessica, the hidden overseas assets, all of it had vanished. Instead, his former colleagues were spreading stories of his misdeeds on social media, and the name William Henderson had become a byword in the industry for a traitor, a legacy that would last forever. What did I even live for? The question echoed in his cell, but there was no one left to answer. All that remained for him was an endless solitude and a W sentence called regret. I stood before my mother's grave again, with my Aunt Eleanor. My dear sister. Sarah is going to be all right. She's become such a magnificent leader, my aunt said, gently stroking the headstone. I looked up at the sky. There, a bright evening star was shining, one I couldn't see on that tragic night 10 years ago. Mom, please watch over me. I won't lose my way anymore. I have trustworthy allies by my side. And within myself, I have a pride that no one can take away. After a long, 10-year winter, true spring had finally arrived in my life. Right after our divorce, William had told me, I'm starting a new life in America. Don't get in my way. But the one who truly started a new life was me. Rising from the mud, I had carved out my own destiny with my own hands. This was my victory. A breeze blew, gently rustling my hair. Feeling its comfort, I took a step with Daniel into the dazzling light. The story doesn't end here. A woman has reclaimed her worth and will now fill the world with love. That wonderful future has just begun.